Israel Adesanya did the unthinkable, and I'm not just talking about the knockout. There was something more fascinating he did that goes beyond that knockout. This isn't going to be a normal breakdown of their tactics and techniques that I normally break down, however, I need to mention something very key about this fight. You see, Adesanya has a very particular fighting style and philosophy that accompanies it. In short, he doesn't believe in the conventional use of a guard as a primary defense. In fact, he'd much rather use head movement and footwork as his primary defense. This has always been his go-to defense whenever he fought. And this is what was most interesting about Izzy's rematch with Alex Pereira. Izzy actually used a shelling guard, and he didn't just do it as a means to recover from a bad situation. No, he did it willingly as a primary defense on purpose. But why? At the end of the fight, Izzy mentions that he purposely set up a trap for Pereira to set up his finishing blows. But what exactly was that trap? This is the idea that I want to explore in this video. From what we can observe, it looks like putting up the guard might have worked as a lure to bring Alex into Izzy's striking. This is a very similar trap that Petr Yan uses with his guard. This is a tactic that I mention often on this channel for many of you who follow, but I'll play this clip to kind of explain how it works. Petr Yan uses this tricky guard tactic to blast many of his opponents, and you may not have noticed it. He uses this guard trick often to set up powerful shots and combos, but how does he do it? When you put up the guard, it often signals the opponent that you're entering a defensive or vulnerable state. This often entices the opponent to come to attack you. Yan will use his psychology against the opponent by purposely putting up his guard. And what this does is that it draws the opponent forward to attack, thinking Yan is vulnerable, but Yan will quickly change his rhythm to burst forward almost a second after drawing them in. As a result, you often see Yan put his guard up and firing his shots right after opponent attempts to walk forward right into his guard, thinking that it's safe to attack. From what I was able to find through interviews, Yan mentions that he uses this as a way to draw his opponents into a false sense of security in order to attack them. In this fight, Izzy uncharacteristically defaulted to using the shelling guard. This was a really odd thing to see him do, but you can see that in this scenario, it would draw Alex into his trap. As Alex closed in, Izzy fired his shots away. This is a strange dynamic because you would often see Izzy always using his footwork to escape those corners, but in this fight he chose to stay planted in order to absorb on the guard. Do keep in mind he didn't do this throughout the entire first round. It seems to be something he tried to attempt towards the later of the second round. Also, Izzy had very good shot selection here because he chose to go on a straight line using the 1-2 versus Alex's hook. Now the hook isn't going to get there as fast because the straight shot goes in a straight trajectory, so it allowed him to strike first. Now using this shelling defense was a very odd thing to me because he never defaults to using this first, so changing a habit like this really made me curious why he was doing this through his fight. Now this wasn't the first time that he did this in this fight. It was particularly the second round when Izzy started to using that shell a little bit more to see if he could find a way to interrupt them. There was one earlier case where he did this too. Like in this scenario where he puts up his guard, stays planted, wait for Alex to come in, and then he tries to time that hook and follow up with more shots. Pereira got greedy in the pocket and he paid the price. Ultimately, this is all the context that Izzy gives us at the time. Who knows if he'll reveal more about the specifics of what the trap actually was in the end, but this is what the most observable outcome I was able to catch from Izzy's typical fighting habits. And this was a strange trap indeed, for Izzy to do something very uncharacteristically different, but Pereira fell for it and he came in and he paid the price. There are some really interesting tactics Izzy pulled off in this fight I think are really worth talking about, so tune in for a future later video in a video format so I can show the actual techniques being used. But for now, watch out for a breakdown of two savage lightweights in the division, Justin Gaethje versus Fiziev. I got some interesting stuff I found out about this one.